Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make French onion soup. I promise you, if you follow this recipe, you're going to end up with soup that's better than what you can get at the restaurant, and it's not going to cost you $15 per serving. Let's get started. Everything you see right here is what you're going to need for this recipe. And of course, we're going to start off with chopping the onions. You're going to need to chop 5 onions in total. I'll just show you how I chopped one of them. I'm pretty sure that's all you're going to need to get the point. If you need to see it again, just rewind the video. I start off by cutting the onion in half, going through the root and the stem. Then I slice off the stem side, leaving the root end behind. Leaving the roots on will actually help hold the onion together while you're chopping it. Once each end is cut off, go ahead and peel off the skin. Once that's done, you're going to take your fingertips and press down on the top of the onion as lightly as you can while holding it steady. And just like this, cut through the front of the onion, halfway between the top and the bottom. Having a sharp knife will make this a lot easier. Next, I make 4 cuts on the top of the onion going towards the root but not all the way through. Then go ahead and rotate the onion 90 degrees. Then I made 3 even cuts perpendicular to the ones I just made. This is going to give you nice uniform squares that will cook evenly once we start to caramelize them. Now I'll show you again on the other half of the onion, this time keeping my pointer finger tucked around the knife the way you're actually supposed to. So again, 1 cut through the front, a few slices along the top going towards the root. I was looking to get squares that were about 1 inch wide. Then go ahead and turn the onion and finish cutting your squares. Make sure you always keep your fingers tucked in on the hand that you're holding the onion with to try to prevent cutting yourself. Once you're done cutting, this is what your pieces should look like. Now here are all 5 onions chopped up. I know it looks like a lot, but these are really going to reduce down during the caramelization process. And to kick that process off, we add 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter to a pot. You should have this around medium heat, and once the butter is melted, we add in the onions. Once they're in, add 1 teaspoon of salt and give them a quick stir. For me, the entire caramelization process took about 30 minutes. And during that process, you're going to see several different stages that the onions go through. I'll show you those right here. First, you'll see the onions begin to sweat. Next, you're going to see them starting to turn brown. During this entire process, make sure that you keep an eye on the heat and lower it if you feel like the onions are cooking too quickly. Right here, they're nearly done. You should also be able to see some of this caramelization sticking to the bottom of the pot. So make sure you're really getting down in there when you're stirring, because you don't want to let anything burn. Once you're done, this is exactly what they should look like. Nice and golden brown, and you'll notice how much they've shrunken down since the beginning. Now that we're at this point, we're ready to add the rest of the ingredients to finish our soup. The next thing to go in is some white wine. Here I used a Pinot Grigio. You could also use a Sauvignon Blanc, just anything more on the dry side and not too sweet. You know, something like a Riesling would not work well in this. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and add half a cup of the wine. Oh, okay, looks like I forgot something. Oh, okay, go ahead and treat yourself. Having a little wine to sip on while you're cooking is fine. Okay, now that that's done, time to add half a cup of wine to the caramelized onions. Okay, I guess it was a rough day today. Alright, now we will put the wine in the pot. Oh, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, take that with you. Okay, next is 2 tablespoons of dry sherry wine. Now go ahead and give it a stir and let the wine cook down for just a couple minutes. During this time, if you want, you can add 1 tablespoon of flour to thicken the soup up a little bit, but this is completely optional. Next, add 1 teaspoon each of ground black pepper and salt. It's always a good idea to add your salt and other seasonings throughout the entire cooking process. This way all of your flavors are completely incorporated into the dish and not just thrown on top at the end. And now, as you can see, I'm adding 8 cups of beef broth to the pot. So obviously, you're going to have a pot that's big enough to handle this amount of liquid. Once all of the broth is in, I gave everything a few stirs and turned up the heat just a little bit to medium-high so we can bring the soup to a boil. I'm making sure to scrape the bottom of the pot as well to make sure nothing stays stuck down there. As it's heating up, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, as well as 2 bay leaves to give this even more flavor. I give it a couple more stirs just to get everything in there, and wait for the soup to come to a nice steady boil. Once we get there, we're just going to let it boil for about 15 minutes. You can take advantage of this time to get everything else ready for the final steps. So in this case, I had a block of Gruyere cheese, which I went ahead and grated during this time. After this, I also sliced up my baguette. Now that everything's ready, all that's left now is to assemble. While I'm doing this, I have the broiler of my oven turned on, and I'm allowing that to heat up during the assembly. I have 2 ramekins here that I'm going to fill up not all the way, but to that bottom lip on the inside. We need to leave some space for our bread and cheese. Once the soup is in, I placed 2 slices of baguette into each bowl, and each slice was about ½ an inch thick. And last but not least is the cheese. I actually used 3 different kinds in this. First Gruyere, then a little sprinkle of grated Parmesan on top, and finally some mozzarella. Alright, now it's time to get these into the oven. Okay, so this step doesn't take very long, so make sure you're keeping an eye on the oven the entire time. This is only going to take about 2 or 3 minutes. Once they're ready, this is exactly what they're going to look like. Nice bubbling cheese that's just starting to turn brown. These 2 came out absolutely perfect. Now all that's left to do is let them cool for a couple of minutes, and then they're finally ready to eat. Now here is our finished product. So as you can see, it's not too complicated. The most important part is to control your temperature throughout the process, and you'll have your very own restaurant quality, I'll even say better than restaurant quality, French onion soup. Let me know if you give this a try. I know I was very happy with how this came out. Subscribe if you're interested in seeing more of these tutorials in the future. I also have more cooking and cocktail tutorials available right now. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again.